What's up, everybody? This is Christoforou with the Duran, and I have with me Peter Lavelle, host of RT's CrossTalk. And today we're going to be talking about the UK government cracking the Novichok case. All right, Peter, but before we dive into this, guys, this will definitely get demonetized, and they will not allow an appeal process because we are dealing with the Novichok case. And we think the UK government pretty much has a blanket ban on any type of news that runs contrary to the mainstream media on what's going on with the Novichok case. So, guys, I'm going to put a link up top to our Duran shop. Pick up a t-shirt, help support the Duran. And also down in the description, you'll find the links to the shop. You'll also find the link to our PayPal account so you can donate and help support the channel, as we are going to be demonetized for sure. I hope we're not, but I'm pretty confident this will be demonetized.
Yeah, and before we get started, Alex, hey, folks, you're going to get a one-sided story that is full of holes. Now, Alex and I, we're not saying we know the truth, but we can certainly see holes in a propaganda story. Oop, that's where it got demonetized, right there.
Demonetized, there you go. The algorithm just picked it up. So Peter, they cracked the case, the UK police. They found the guys Putin's assassins. They found them roaming the streets of Salisbury in London. Photos, these guys are smiling, walking the streets.
They got to be
not
the
a care in the world.
most vicious assassins ever photographed in the history of the world. Okay.
What do you think about this?
Well, number one, let's go very broad. It will never go to court because these two individuals, whoever they are, they entered Britain on aliases, but with real visas. They know that they're officers in GRU. How would they know that? And why would two officers from the Russian intelligence agency be walking around London in Salisbury with a smile on their face, looking straight into a camera? That's really quite amazing. The initial announcement is that these two gentlemen are Russian nationals and they're suspects. Well, that morphed in a matter of hours to Theresa May saying they're guilty. But the initial report said that a jury would have to determine this. So in a matter of hours of being announced, they were two suspects, Russian nationals under aliases, to now they're GRU officers, and they did it. And there'll be more sanctions. I mean, come on. First of all, let's look at Novichok. So it was a gel, like Jell-O? This thing, and they found insignificant traces in their room. Well, what is this? What is this aspirin with? What did they do? Take aspirin and dip it into Red Bull? That's powerful.
Remember when this first came out? This stuff was military grade. One little drop, lethal. You're done.
So we don't really understand that. Another thing is that it's never going to go to a court of law, and they know this. And that's why there's no onus of showing evidence to the public, okay? Because it will never go to trial. Evidence will never have to be shown. There is no defense because there's no one there to be defended. This is so convenient, okay? I'm not saying that the British authorities don't have the right to investigate this very bizarre story. It's incumbent upon them to do that. But at least tell us about it in an intelligent way. Don't insult us with these things. Particularly, we know that we'll never go to trial. There will be no discovery process. And if you read the original report, it's real thin. And it actually is a lot more tepid than what Theresa May has come out and said subsequently. So, everything I learn about this, it begs more questions than answers.
Now, Theresa May gave a statement to the Parliament, and this is what she said. I took some notes on it because it was just surreal. She said 250 detectives conducted scanned over 11,000 hours of CCTV. They took more than 1,400 statements. Quote, they carried out painstaking and methodical work around the clock. But Peter, they failed to notice that the Novichok went from a gel to a little perfume bottle, was lying on the street outside the Skripals' apartments, and two heroin addicts, two drug addicts, picked up that bottle of perfume and they took it back to their house. But this was a painstaking investigation. They scanned the whole area. They looked at everything.
You know why? They have to say those kind of things because if the one fatality in all of this died in the way that they tell us. Again, no evidence is shown to us, okay? Where are the Skripals? Where are they? Apparently, Yulia wants to come home. Why can't she come home? Why can't she talk to the media? I mean, the victims here can't speak to the media. They don't have any freedom of speech right now. They have no recourse. The Russian consulate authorities have no access to their own nationals. I mean, why? I mean, if sunshine is the best antidote to mystery, then let it shine. They're not letting that happen. The timing of it is very interesting. You have Bob Woodward's fear book come out, which of course has caused a lot of ripples. A lot of people that are mentioned in the book flat out say they didn't say what what Woodward said, which is really kind of sad for me because I remember the Watergate days. I date myself by saying that. They took down a president. I think it's fair to say. Now they're just two cogs in the machine. And then, you know, we have all this rumbling going on about Syria. We have a growing confrontation over the liberation of Idlib. And then all of a sudden, the British authorities come out here. And, you know, this thing with this very potential conflict in Idlib has everything to do with confronting Russia and Iran, because what the Western powers have never cared about Syria. So it's kind of interesting. All of this is unfolding at the same time. And it gets Russia back in the news, okay? And I've said this before. You know, when we look at the dossier, we look at Bruce Orr, we look at the Skripal case. I mean, these elites are all in on these conspiracy theories. They're too big to fail, because if they do fail, the people that are peddling them, including the mainstream media, fail as well. All right. We've seen how CNN has taken a real hit by not correcting itself over the Trump Tower meeting and that creepy lawyer that was working for Cohen. So, I mean, the elites are definitely scared right now. But of course, you know, they know how to turn up the volume and don't look here, look over there. OK, yeah, don't ask any questions because we don't have to give you any information. This is secret information. It's national security. We've been hearing this for a long time.
Yeah, the timing on this is so suspect. I mean, Woodward's book. All of a sudden, they find these two Russian guys walking around the streets. They got the CCTV, smiling, CCTV footage everywhere. These are the guys that did it. They traveled under an alias. And all of this is conveniently timed right when Russia is liberated. It's helping Assad liberate Idlib. And the U.S., the U.K., and France have said what? They will attack Syria if a chemical weapons attack happens. If. And they move their warships into place.
Like if Novichok attack.
Exactly. Okay. So the timing is...
The interesting thing, too, is that if you want to be responsible in authority, did the British government, with their so-called evidence and findings, did they confront in private, confidentially, the Russian government and say, excuse us, after lengthy investigations, you can go through all the detectives and all the hours and all the CCTV all you want. But these two guys, we think they did it, and we think they're yours. All right? Did they give the Russian government even that opportunity? No, they didn't. They have no intention of doing that. Russia is a member of this chemical weapons international organization. But they weren't involved, weren't allowed any access to this information, which they are under this covenant. Okay, none. Okay, it's a one-way street. They're not interested in finding the truth. They're interested in scoring propaganda points. And you know, we'll have to see. This is just really fresh breaking news. We'll see how the British public reacts to it. But I mean, you and I have just looked at it over the last 90 minutes or so, and the things we've just said is only what we've thought about in a very short amount of time, and all of the holes that are right there. Hopefully, as this story develops, you'll be able to talk to Alexander McCurris tomorrow. He has a very important personal affair today, but hopefully, he'll be able to talk about it tomorrow.
And last week we had Theresa May in Africa. She did her little Africa dance. Looked like a complete idiot. I mean, there were memes everywhere, just totally trolling her, making fun of her. And then you see her in front of Parliament, you know, playing the role of the Prime Minister, the big, strong leader of the UK. And she makes this statement. What are your thoughts on it? She says that Russia has a pattern of malign activity, and that's a quote, a pattern of malign activity.
Why do we go? Okay, well, we could go back a long time for the British, but why don't we just go to the 1953 coup against a democratically elected government in Iran? Okay, and their involvement. That pattern has just continued to this day. And all I can say to the British is that you have a pretty bad track record when it comes to behavior, but you have no interest in transparency whatsoever. All right. So the onus of responsibility is on the British authorities and Theresa May, who is quite beleaguered, as everybody knows. We're all surprised that she's still there. Really? Okay. She bots Brexit badly, working against the democratic will of the British people in a democratically held referendum. I mean, she's got a lot to be held account for. But the sad thing is not just what Theresa May had to say. If I'm not mistaken, and I hope I'm not, but I think Jeremy Corbyn actually came out and praised the investigation, which it shows that he's been quite cowed with this anti-Semite bullshit that is being thrown at him. Yeah. So they've been able to slowly but surely kind of cow him. He probably, and I understand him, it's not worth losing the political capital on this one because he's got a lot of other things on the front burner. But it shows how the deep state can really manipulate the narrative, at least of the mainstream legacy media. So, and look, Donald Trump threw diplomats out of the United States because of this whole Novichok thing. In Britain, what do they think they're going to do now? Okay, I mean, another round of sanctions. Syria is very, very important here. Syria. An extension of that, Iran. It's all coming together. I've been saying this on this venue and on CrossTalk. Actually, I'm saying it right now on CrossTalk. I think it's on air because this is what they're really laser focused on. So this whole Novichok thing, they're looking for closure because I believe they really can't close it, and they make it so you really can't ask any questions, right? Because there'll never be a trial. There'll never be a discovery and evidence. So you're kind of left like, okay, I guess, okay, and it's up to us to push back.
And because we do ask questions, here's something that I want your feedback on, and no one in mainstream media ever mentions this. Skripal was connected to who? To Christopher Steele. Is it that small of a world?
Well, I mean, Annie Michonne, ex-MI6, good friend on CrossTalk often. I hope we'll have her on here. I mean, her belief is that, Skripal, because he was caught as a double agent. He was caught by the security forces here in Russia. He was tried. He was put in prison, and he was given clemency, and he left. Now, what Annie told me, he said, well, they obviously squeezed him before they put him in prison, probably squeezed him on the way out, and then you have MI6, they probably squeezed him again. So what worth he would have been is quite dubious, unless Skripal got back into the business in the UK, as I like to say, God's playground for Russian oligarchs and dirty money, okay? And so maybe, is it possible that he went back into business? We don't know. But Christopher Steele, he keeps popping up everywhere, doesn't he? Okay. And we know what his political colors are. Okay. I mean, he's a staunch deep state guy, hated Donald Trump, and everything that's coming out connected to him is a trajectory to sanction and to confront Russia. It's not a good idea.
Yeah, the way all these dots have connected around Skripal and Steele and Trump and now Syria it can't be just sheer coincidence at all. And the timing of everything points to this exact moment when Russia and Assad are entering what many consider the final battle in Syria to liberate it.
The thing is, very broadly, the strategy that is being played out is to play the national security card. And that's always kind of the door stopper. I mean, Julian Assange, he knows how WikiLeaks got those emails. So maybe he's willing to make some kind of compromise to save his own life.
They're squeezing him hard too.
No. Do you think they want him to talk in an open court, in a public venue? Hell no. Okay? Because they want to keep playing. They want to hide behind the cloak of national security. And that's what they keep doing. And that's their default position now, to maintain the status quo, because they see it's rapidly being undone. And so what do? You play the national security card. We know better. Okay? This is a time-honored thing, but I mean, if we can just put it into a contemporary setting, I mean, from 2003 with the illegal invasion of Iraq all the way to the present, we've seen so many of these playing these cards. Look, 2 major ceasefires in Syria were ended abruptly. Why? Because the U.S. broke the ceasefire, intentionally using military force illegally against Syrian forces, against international law. I've said this 1,000 times. When does the West ever invoke international law? Well, when somebody else is breaking it, but not when they are, okay? Yeah. Because they can't, because they're exceptional. And because they're exceptional, they have the right to do this. The whole issue of extradition, let's go back to the Litvinenko case. The British were demanding extradition. Like there's still that same colonial power that can tell everybody what to do. It's just not, it's delusional, this world that they're living in. And what insults me, and I think our viewers, is that will we ever really know what this was about? Probably not.
Not that the Skripals now have disappeared as well, and who knows where they are. But take this home for us, Peter. What happens next? Now that they've, quote unquote, identified the assassins.
No, they've gone further. What they want to tell the public is they've solved it. That's what they're telling the public. They've solved this bizarre incident. And I would like evidence that it actually really happened. Okay? I mean, Yulia looks great after Novichok. That's kind of sick humor. But I mean, look at the pictures. I mean, it's kind of odd, isn't it? So, sanctions, you bet. And Syria is on the front burner right now. And it will give an excuse to punish the Russians. Because let's face it, when Vladimir Putin in August of 2015 went to the United Nations General Assembly and announced that Russia, upon the invitation of the Damascus government, was intervening militarily to fight international terrorism, they've made it very clear that it's the Russians' fault that the Assad government, the sovereign government of Syria that is recognized by the United Nations and under international law, it's going to be Russia's fault that this has happened because the West failed again in its foreign policy in the Middle East. It's like I mentioned, 1953 in Iran, all the way to the present. Where's one success story? Just name me one. No. Expensive, bloody, the loss of treasury, and just embarrassment, okay? Humiliation. And they all want to, they could never be at fault for their own stupid mistakes. It must be the Russians. Yeah. That's how it works.
Oh, boy. Never a dull day. Never a dull day in the news, that's for sure. And when the deep state is involved... Yeah, I think this one was perhaps the most moronic concoction they came up with, this Novichok story. I mean, it's got so many holes, so many cracks in it.
This is 100 times worse than VX.
Yeah, it's sitting in their hotel room.
It's like months. What is it like? A gel for your hair or something? I mean,
I don't know. They did find the Novichok in their hotel room, but it's a small amount and it's not lethal. So all the cleaning ladies that came in and cleaned the hotel room, everyone that stayed in the hotel after these 2 guys left, these 2 guys that stayed there and traveled without any problem.
And all the medical staff that took care of the Skripals, they're perfectly fine.
Everyone's fine.
But it's the most vile things they ever made.
Military grade. Meanwhile, you have, Ported Down, which is a couple of miles away, which also makes this Novichok stuff.
Come on. Yeah. Don't you think that's a reach? That's a stretch.
It's a conspiracy theory. Anyway, we're going to do a good video on this as well with Alexander. He'll probably look at it from a legal perspective and go over the more details now that we're getting more information. But as always, the great Peter Lavelle with a really good analysis of what's going on with this very breaking news on the UK's Novichok cracking the case. Theresa May cracking the case.
Come back to this YouTube page as soon as possible.
Yeah, and guys, we will be demonetized for this video. So you have the link up on the right for DRN, for our Duran shop. You also have the links down below to donate to us via PayPal, as well as the shop page as well. Buy a shirt, help support the Duran. Peter Lavelle, host of RT's CrossTalk. Thank you very much. And guys, don't forget to click that subscribe button down below and click on that notifications bell to get the notification every time we push out a new video like this. Peter Lavelle, host of RT's CrossTalk. Thank you very much for going over this breaking Novichok news. Thank you very much, guys. Till next time, take care.